Hi, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, I've been talking today with my subscriber friend now, since I met him personally. Came up, and he and Maricel came up and stayed at our guest house, and we had a lot of fun chatting. And he is now in the process of buying a piece of land, and he has bought that property. Now, when I say that he, even though he hasn't told me this, I'm sure that you're actually not allowed to own property in the Philippines. So this kind of information is for people who are getting married, and they're going to marry the lady of their dreams. Otherwise, why would you get married? And they're going to go in, and they're going to have to go through jump through hoops, aren't they? Because that's what lawyers have us do. So what I've learned about this is that very often, and I know this from Beth's experience as well, is that Beth is from a home of 10 siblings. She's one of 10 siblings. Now, in the case of where there are several siblings, and it is a piece of inherited land, each sibling has a piece of that land. Now, let's make the math easy and say that there are 5 siblings, and each owns 1 acre or 1 hectare. Now, if all of those pieces are to be sold as one, then obviously each one has to have the right documentation. Remember all about that. The right documentation with the right spelling and the right information, and they need to give their agreement for the thing to be sold. So let's assume that only one hectare out of the 5 is going to be sold. This is similar to Brian's situation, is that there are several siblings. It's quite a sizable piece of land. He's buying, I think, 1.5, let's call it 1.5 hectares. And so what he's told me is that when it's surveyed, they come in and they survey the whole of the piece. That's everybody's share. It's all surveyed in one, and then the part that he is going to buy is agreed upon. They walk around the property, I think with a surveyor, and what he is buying is agreed upon. And here they do it in very natural ways. It will be between this coconut and that banana tree, and they actually do have an accurate idea about what the property is. So that would be it. Now, here's an interesting thing that I learned today, and that is, as Brian told me, he is going to make sure, and I know that this is true, what he learned, I know that it's true, and this is my cat's butt here, suddenly decided that she was going to sit on my shoulder. So he wants to make sure that as has been suggested to him, he can buy a piece of property and then find out that a neighbor knocks on the door and says, "That coconut tree over there is mine." And that's the unusual thing about the Philippines, is that trees are owned on a piece of property. Now, Beth and I, for a future reference and use, we've bought several gemelina trees, or tugas, I can't remember which. It's not grown to a point where it can be used yet, but we bought, I think it may have been 10 or 20 trees, and I think that they're fairly young at the moment, but eventually, as we need to have wood cut, we'll be able to use them. So we own those trees. Now, Are they on our land? No, but we owned them. And then Nanai knows who owns whichever tree. So that tree over there, yes. When we proceed up our road from where it leaves the junction of the main path down to the city road, when we leave there, we come and we turn right around a fully grown, nice Gemelina tree. Wonderful wood. It's a wonderful wood, very beautiful. And then we go another 100 yards and we pass another Gemelina tree on the right hand side. And when we were looking for wood to do certain parts of our house, we said, well, that's a Gemelina tree. Why can't we use that? And back came the word, no, those two trees belong to the mayor of Burgos, as far as I know, and he doesn't want to sell them. See, so there's two trees there, and their owner is the mayor. Now, I explained this on one of our other videos, that if you have, say, on your land, you have a plantation of, let's say that you have 20 or 30 coconut trees, because they don't just plant one coconut tree, they plant them in entire rows, as with banana trees. So let's say that you have, I don't know, 50 coconut trees. Well, if you have a child that's going to college, a youngster that's going to college, or you need money for something, you can pawn that entire crop of that entire planting of coconut trees. You can, or you can say, you can pawn 25, and you pawn 25, and you get, obviously you get a sum of money, but then along with the sum of money, the interest, I guess the interest part that you pay on that loan is that the person who loaned you the money uses the coconut trees as collateral, and it's his right then to harvest the coconuts. So I guess that's what he gets out of the loan. And then when you're ready, you simply pay him again, and you return the rights of the coconuts to you. Now all of this went on your land. You can also go somewhere else and you can help somebody else pawn their 25 coconut trees by giving them money, and then having an agreement that you will, I don't know whether it's 1 year or 2 years or 5 harvests or 3 harvests, but there's an agreement there, and probably all on a handshake, and you could be reaping the benefit of the coconut harvest on those 25 which are not on your land. And this is done quite often. So what Brian has stated that he is absolutely certain on, and that is, he has stipulated that a document is signed confirming that he owns every tree on his land. I thought that was pretty interesting. So in other words, you have to make sure that you own that land. So that's another little thing about the Philippines and how different things are here. Somebody, just as a little aside, Emmy, I think Ebby, I think it was Ebby, I'm not looking at my phone because it never works when I do that, but Ebby was concerned with the work that we're doing on our road. We're actually starting to widen it, and we have my brother-in-law working on that by hand for when we get our bigger truck, which could be in a month. So she said, well, I'm concerned about this. Have you been through to the appropriate authorities? And then this is a lady that obviously is educated on all aspects of this kind of transaction? And the answer is no, we haven't done any of that. This is all on family land, and we don't really have to worry about. But there is the right of way on certain pieces of land, and we've got, what we're looking at is a road that has been public right of way for, I don't know, for generations, and everybody accepts that. And if I find that one particular part of the road is not doing so well, I actually can go down there and work on that road. And it's really more of a dirt track than a road, okay? It's just not, the descriptions and the wording from the West doesn't fit here. It just doesn't fit. You almost have to be here. You have to walk that road yourself. And as I've said before, we're looking at a road which is, as I say, little more than a dirt track, and it's in hundreds and hundreds of square miles of fields and hills and mountains. And the mountains are by altitude rather than looking like Mount Everest, okay? So it's not that kind of mountain. But they're there, and they are high, and we are high up in the mountains, and they're just rolling hills everywhere, and they just gradually get higher and higher and higher. And you don't see any other houses. There are very, very few houses. I think we pass maybe 2 or 3 in a 40-minute walk. It wends in and out, up and down, over the hills and down into the valleys, and they are that's how they've always been, and it's so isolated that you can hear the sound of your own footsteps. I always thought that was wonderful. So hope that helps a little for you to understand what we've been talking about, and it gives you an insight into life in the Philippines, our little ordinary life. Thanks for looking in. This is A Foreigner in the Philippines. Bye for now.